Hello, welcome to the Daily Shortcut. My name is Dave Wood, and I'm glad that you're here. I'm going to be your host today. This is going to be a little bit off key from many of my other Daily Shortcut episodes, but I wanted to share something that I've tossed around in my mind for some time now and thought about a lot, and that's on the actual nature of why we want to pursue success, why we want it, and what is it inside of us that really allows us to create abundance, to create happiness, to create financial prosperity, and to balance our lives and to create peace in the right kind of way. What drives us to do these things? Why are we so uncomfortable with the way things are? One of the things that I've thought about is the common phenomenon that I've noticed where success is almost looked at exclusively as some sort of a psychic, a mental, or a spiritual game. And almost nobody ever really talks about the biological components that are in play that both prevent people from feeling good in their life and also play out to help someone create greatness and pursue their passions. A great example is the movie and the book, which is called The Secret. A lot of you guys have saw that. It was one of the biggest launches ever for an internet success movie. And that's where Rhonda Byrne and her friends and all the mentors in there talk about success as if it's completely and entirely a matter of beliefs, visualizing things, faith, and they almost completely ignore the role and the work of the biology and action in the picture, as if it's possible to simply imagine a new Ferrari and have the universe sign a deed over to your name and drive it to your home without a driver in the seat, just like you dreamed of the previous day in your couch as you're moving the stick shift around. That's an interesting belief to have, I think, isn't it? Well, what are your thoughts? You can tell me in the comment. I just think that that's bullshit. I got a great question, though, to ponder on today, and that's why do we even seek success in the first place? Have you ever noticed how human beings just seem to feel out of alignment with the way things are, especially the people in this crowd? Kind of like a square peg in a round hole all the time in society. Now, I'm a little bit of an oddball and even further from that, and as my good pal Dave Lovett says, I'm a little bit of a bubble off from the rest of society. And here's what I think about why people actually seek success, as odd as some of this stuff might sound. Are you ready for this? You see, whether you believe in God and that people were created, whether you believe that we were created out of the dust of the earth, or whether you believe that we evolved from a primordial soup of amino acids mixed with a tinge of genius, or that we were a mad experiment by non-malevolent extraterrestrials like my friend Jamie Hudson believes at some point a long time ago in our history of human beings, here's the truth, is we were in a natural state. And what I mean by that is a state where we were in harmony with our purpose and our environment, with our evolution, our design. We were in harmony with the way that we were created to be. Quite to the contrary of public school and absolutely ludicrous society, we weren't evolved to sit in a cubicle, which the innermost desire of people inside their heart is to serve the whims of a boss who doesn't like them maybe, and have power trips and control our lives and control what we can do to succeed at a different level. We were created into a state of being that was in natural abundance and balance, that had harmony with the forces that are in the environment around us, and that is the natural state of human beings. One of the things that sets us as humans apart is our absolutely almost incomprehensible ability to form the environment around us to the way that we want to live, or at least the way we think we want to live, rather than, instead of doing that, molding our lives to the environment as every other species on the planet does in some way. About 5,000 years ago, we developed agriculture. It was actually discovered by what was most likely a woman. After all, they aren't just gorgeous, they're also smarter than men too, right? And our whole way of being went through a massive dynamic shift in history, where the way in which we existed was no longer connected to the rhythm of our biology and the rhythm of the seasons and plants, and also the parts of the world we needed to live in. The theory that women were the first to discover agriculture comes from the common historical belief that men were primarily responsible in most societies for hunting, and women were primarily responsible for gathering plants to support the needs of a nomadic, wandering food supply. That may or may not be true, but I think that some genius woman named Eve happened to discover that if she took an orange seed and instead of spitting it, maybe she saved it, she could start an orange tree colony and pick fruit when she wanted, rather than moving when the tree candy ran out and moved somewhere else in the world and they had to pick up their family and move. From that sprang an entirely new form of existence for mankind. the fall away from our biological natural state, our connection with the environment around us, the kind of spiritual feeling that we have when we are actually connected to the abundance in the world that exists around us, regardless of the belief system that we have, the balance we have with the world. And we started a world where we formulate and control nature around us, not being in alignment with it. Not based on the available supply of local abundance, but according to our will, according to our desire, and according to our ability to manipulate that environment through the things that we create. Now, instead of being hailed as glorious hunters, men were taken from their prestigious positions as protectors and warriors and were assigned menial tasks like sitting in cubicles, planting, turning ground, and harvesting crops. All while grumbling probably and getting mad, but not really knowing why we feel weird. But there's more than that, is the way that I think about it. Along with a dynamic shift in the way that we exist, from being connected to the world and from feeling balanced with the forces of nature, that is the state that our entire, I want you to keep this in mind, our whole biological and mental makeup is comprised to support a certain way of being. We now, instead of being free to live and connected to our families and nature, were forced to abide in a world that was unbalanced, that's material and driven by a trade economy rather than hunting and gathering. And our diet shifted from eating wild meats, maybe raw fruits and vegetables, maybe things that we cook, maybe fish, and anything else that we could capture, kill, find, pick, right? To being based on grains, sugars, and we went from the state we were in to being weak and diseased by eating grain-fed beef, which is also out of their natural state, and to hide our disdain and natural repulsion of the taste of our new food supply. Then we start to manipulate the taste with over-spicing them to hide what they actually are because they don't taste good naturally to human beings. To hide the decay of our rotten food through all sorts of rituals, fermenting, cooking, smoking them, and otherwise being inventive with our glorious, oversized, gigantic human brains, we changed the world around us to adapt to an idea of what we wanted to create. And as we departed from our natural harmony, so did our biology, so did our psyche, so did our social structures, so did our breathing, our posture, our health, our vitality, our spirituality, our connection to our families, our fulfillment, and also our neurochemical structure has gotten out of alignment with our biology because we're still wired to be in a state that's actually natural for the human body and mind, and we're not living in alignment with that state. As we started eating overcooked and manipulated foods that our bodies were not designed or evolved or created to support, and we departed from our robust daily exercise routine that our bodies are built to live in, all manner of disease and genetic degradation started to affect the human species, which include heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes, depression, sadness, ADD, all manner of psychological disorders, bipolar disorder, and you could just list them on and on to infinity of different kinds of breakdowns manifested in nature's continuing attempt to pull us back into harmony and balance with the created universe around us. Now, along with our physical discontent, our neurotransmitter supply and balance in the brain started to become further and further disconnected from our natural state, and the human brain has actually shrunk by more than 11% in just the last 10,000 years. If you actually look at the fossil record and research, you'll see that that's true. It has not grown and we haven't gotten more intelligent. Our cognitive powers have actually declined and specialized through a lack of natural use and sitting in front of computers all day doing things we weren't designed to do. And then we started to pass the diseases we've accumulated through a more toxic environment to children's children through the generations, which creates genetic morphing that actually creates structural breakdowns in the body and mind as the generations begin to pass through time. You can actually see that if you give a cat a bad diet in 3 generations, their kittens can't have babies anymore if you feed them the wrong foods. There's a lot of studies on this. Now, in the attempt from that state to recover our once pristine powers, always feeling out of alignment, we used to possess, as we were kind of like the protectors and the stewards of the earth, we began to manipulate our experience of the world with drugs, with psychoactive substances like caffeine, theobromine, and chocolate, alcohol, smoking all manner of things, and taking pills from pharmacies. And that all began to change us, and we started to be a pleasure-seeking species trying to get back into a natural state but not feeling natural, And that's kind of, in my opinion, our attempt to fill this void that we all experience as human beings as a result of being disconnected with the beautiful creation that exists around us. And we all feel that disconnection with the universe around us because we live in a state that's disconnected. Now, in an attempt to feel the natural harmony the body and mind are designed to feel when we live in that alignment with our biochemistry, with our spiritual natures, while we continue things that continue to throw us more out of whack and alignment with the order of our biology, we start to kind of get messed up. And as a result of that, our delicate neurotransmitter balance in the brain gets out of whack. And that's been going on now for thousands of years. And our brains have not had the time to adapt to that. And we haven't had the fuel that we need in our neurochemistry to sustain the kind of happiness, the kind of balance, the kind of prosperity, the kind of focus, the kind of feeling of well-being that we used to have. We replaced DHA and EPA in fish oil that we need to grow the human mind, and our brain tissue is primarily comprised of that, and that sends communication between nerve cells. And we replace that with hydrogenated vegetable oil that we use all over the place in cooking, and that causes insulin sensitivity and out of whack things, and our blood sugar and obesity and all sorts of problems. We replace our love for sweet fruits, our love for natural foods as a human being, with hundreds of pounds of sugar over the course of our life. We replace the nutrition of raw water, of natural water, of vitamins, of fiber, of minerals, of natural human food with, among other things that we need that we don't even know about, with substances that wreaks havoc on our immune system and causes systemic fungal and insulin problems and infections and diseases in the human body and mind. We replace green leafy vegetables with worthless and useless vitamin supplements. I'm sorry if you're in a nutritional company, I love you too. And otherwise thought of every single way we could possibly destroy our harmony with life itself, trying to seek that balance. As a result of that, we now have generational diseases passing through culture that are actually created by the bad habits of our grandparents, and that was given to them by their grandparents, it was given to them by their ancestors, and so it's not like it's any of their fault. But more like 20% of college kids today are now actually infertile, according to research, because of genetic mutations that are passing through time. And we just continue to do things that do that. We've poisoned nearly every fish in the sea with industrial waste. We've poisoned our air with chemicals that cause brain defects. We've given diseases that never existed before, like ADHD, to our children, and we've created generational emotional weaknesses from being out of line with our biology. And the very strength of our DNA has been corrupted through generation of toxic waste, lies, misinformation, and abuse to the human system. We are not meant as human beings to live in cubicles. We are not designed to watch TV all day, and our bodies are not adapted to the toxicity that it's subject to. And if you combine that with generational genetic weaknesses that have started passing through our system for thousands of years, that's now present in every industrialized culture in the world, there's no question why half the world is dying of heart attacks. We have passions that we can't control. We have addictions that defy common sense. And a lot of us have a void inside of our hearts that's so great that nothing can seem to fill it. And it's been so long since we were connected with who we really are that we forget that the void that we feel was not there at all when the world began. And we're not supposed to feel it because we're built to feel at peace. We're built to feel full of love, full of harmony with the environment. See, I believe that our relentless pursuit of success, our relentless dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and that all of us feel in this complex societal matrix is a result of that disconnection from nature that began some 5,000 odd years ago, and we kind of disconnected with the way that humans are meant to be biologically. We're no longer living the way that we're built to live, and our whole lives we're taught nonsense that has no connection with who we really are and what we can really do inside. We never see our families like we used to see. We don't have strong communities. We don't talk to our neighbors anymore. And we don't really have any sort of emotional connection to our food because we can live wherever we want in any kind of environment and still survive. Try hunting and trapping a deer with a spear and compare that to the feeling that you get when you walk down an aisle with a cart and buy a steak at Walmart. And also think about this. We're manipulated into living inside of a system that not only makes no sense to our biology, and not only is not fun, but it makes no sense whatsoever when it's challenged, analyzed, or thought about. We never ask the teacher, why did you say that, or why do you think I need to go to school to get this job, to get that education? We don't challenge things, and we're taught almost to not challenge and not think. Our lives and our education are built on generational presuppositions that actually have no bearing on how things actually work or how the universe actually operates. Let me give you some specific examples to think about today, and this is really today just for thinking, and maybe you could argue with me in the comments, that'd be fun. This is the first presupposition. Go to school for 16 to 18 years so you can work a job for 40 years so you can retire and you could live your dreams one day. Now I want you to think about something. Who would ever in their life, ever do that if they were never exposed to such nonsense? Who would think that that was a good idea? Really, who? Like, nobody would think it was a good idea. Think about that for a second. Let's say that you were a native Hawaiian, which are beautiful people. They've got strong teeth. They've got strong bodies because they're disconnected from society for so long. And they were eating fish. They had great family life, great social life, only worked a couple hours a day. They stayed up at night looking into the stars with the village elders, telling them stories about the spirits they were talking to. They threw parties every 2 to 3 days. They had hundreds of friends. They only worked a few hours a day, 10 hours a week maybe, collecting food and fishing. And then Captain America comes up and he says, if you just sacrifice everything you love, work for a company you hate, and you learn a bunch of bullshit that doesn't matter to you and live a meaningless life, in 40 years, you can live one day like you do right now again if you just follow this plan, right? That's what the Matrix programs us to do. Now that's not knocking jobs and not knocking doing something you love. I'm talking about societal programming versus passion. The second presupposition is this. It's to work 40 hours a week, to pay your taxes on time, to go on one vacation a year, to buy a nice home that you can live in, that you pay off the debt for the rest of your life. And I shouldn't even need to talk about this nonsense to expose it, but just look at it for what it is. It implies a life where you're constantly struggling and have misery to have a short bout of glory that you put off forever, hating Mondays, living for the weekends, and the assumption that the government has some sort of a right to actually tax your income like they own you. And that's the money that you have to work for because it was put there by the system, and that's the only reason why it exists. And you do everything that human beings don't like to do to live a life like you love 40 years from now. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. That's why we give you a shortcut, because this is a better way. I don't need to go on, but here's my conclusion without going on for another hour about this, because a little bit of a rant, right? We're disconnected and we're imbalanced chronically from the real meaning of life. And it's that meaning and that connection that solves that problem, not the word success, not striving for some other car or some other paycheck. Success is meaningless without connection with our true natures, our true selves, and it's only a means to an end. It is not the end. I believe that people have different issues that hold them back from success that are mostly rooted in their biology and their brains that don't quite work like they're meant to because we're not in an environment we're meant to live in. Bodies that are riddled with the problems of society, and sometimes we've got to have an extra bit of courage to cast off the meaningless beliefs, to find our personal meaning, and to connect with our innate ability to live in abundance right now. Now, that might be solving a neurochemical imbalance through meditation or prayer, saying affirmations that wake up your mind, or doing mental exercise, increasing your secretion of dopamine through exercise, and motivating yourself to move your body enough to feel in such a way as to give you power to continue and to feel like you're in your prime. Or maybe going into work naked one day, just to see what your boss would do when you're making so much money that you don't need it anymore. Maybe what you need to do is find your real motivation of what you really want in your life. And let me tell you something, it isn't money. No matter what you think right now, it's what money as a form of energy of exchange or trade can do and has the ability to manifest in your life that you're actually wanting. Or maybe you're trying to ignore your bio-spiritual void and instead fill it with stuff as a form of compromising the fact that you actually have an addiction to seeking pleasure. Let me end with this. Our society is messed up in more ways than we can imagine, and we shouldn't listen to bullshit. Let's reinvent our species and humanity together by changing the world one dreamer at a time, starting with you. We might not be able to run through the jungle naked anymore, chasing rabbits with a makeshift willow spear, but we certainly don't need to believe the half-truths our parents told us because they believed them because their parents told them, or they believe them because their parents told them, because they were told things by your ancestors 10 generations ago that are also bullshit, and live a life that's full of nonsense until we're so corrupted in our biology and we're old and haven't been taking care of ourselves that we can't enjoy it. Let's reconnect with our inner selves in new ways, in exciting ways. Let's restore balance to the world. Let's create peace, prosperity, spirituality, abundance, personal growth, expansion of knowledge and freedom, and use our chronic entrepreneurialism to save the world from darkness and bring it into freedom, to bring it to peace, to bring it to hope. See, when you're truly aligned through your entire being, you'll once again tap into the vast resources that are available to humanity as we live a life of vision and passion, lifting our heads above the drowning waters of the matrix of society that's trying to hold its dark grip on us on something that can't be suppressed, no matter how brilliant the mind of the matrix. And what's that thing that cannot be suppressed, you might ask? The human spirit inside of you. Because you're built to be free. You're built to have liberty. You're built to feel good, to have passion. Today I'm going to ask you to share what you learned in the comments, share this with somebody that you love, share it on Facebook, and tell me what your biggest discovery was from all this rambling. This episode should have caused some light bulb to go off, something maybe that you realized you never had before inside, or maybe you just realized that, yeah, I am disconnected and I don't like this way of doing things. I want to change, and we can help you do that through the Total Shortcut. I want to hear from you in the comments. You could win a free book for the best comment if you just write something really thoughtful, maybe argue with me even today, share it on Facebook, say, hey, I believe this, not that. I'm cool with anything. And I've actually designed some bonuses, some powerful shortcuts to help you reinforce these concepts in your life that I've been teaching in this episode, and how to reconnect with your biology and reconnect with your spirituality and do what you're meant to do. These shortcuts are meant to help you to attract wealth faster while renewing your unconscious mind with beneficial knowledge that you can take into the world and transform it. In your first daily shortcut today, you're going to be given a free PDF workbook that you can print and that will help you along your pursuit of success by giving you knowledge that will help you develop new skills. Our species might be out of touch with the universe, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a choice right now to make a change in your own life and to get reconnected with the abundance around you. Your second daily shortcut, you're going to have a free audio download of today's episode so you can absorb these ideas into your unconscious servo mechanism inside your mind and begin creating abundant success, prosperity, and connection in your life by applying these secrets. And in your third and most important daily shortcut, I'm going to give you my business system to help you make money, get out of the matrix, and escape lifting your head above the water. And you can even growl like an animal naked if you want. And that's the Total Shortcut system. And that's a system that you can get today and begin growing with us as a community. As you're watching these daily episodes, you can also generate wealth, and you can create the lifestyle that you want by taking these concepts and applying them. Simply fill in your name and best email, then click the button that says, give me the Total Shortcut, and you'll be immediately taken to download your free, powerful bonuses, and you'll be guided into applying this information in your life. It's time for a newer, healthier, better, more prosperous universe. And I'll end with this, because what we have now as a society is not helping you succeed. And it is time for us to change that. Put your name and email in, share this with a friend, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode.